Mr. Chair, you are live.
Great, thank you. Hello, everybody. It is March 8th today for a special meeting of Board of Police Commissioners. As always, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on Mcdougall, the ancestral unceded land of the Mi'kmaq people, and also recognize that today is International Women's Day. So, let's celebrate our women every day, but on this day, we will celebrate you and thank you all for your contributions. And excluding Marty, who's on the screen, I got all women on my screen at the moment. So shout out to all y'all. I appreciate you and everything you do in and outside of the city and for our communities. So with that, we'll have any community announcement. I'm not sure if any community announcements from folks on the commission. No, seeing none. Approval of the minutes, February 8th and February 18th. A mover.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
All right, moved by Commissioner Board, second by Commissioner Carroll. All those favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Seeing none. I'm assuming there was no comments on. I should ask that first. Sorry. And moving to approval in the order of business and approval of additions and deletions. I'll go to Commissioner Mcdougall if you want to change the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to change the order and move number 10.2.1 up to, if we can do it right after number 6. Does that work in terms of logistics and procedure and all of the other rules that we'd have to follow? So that we can hear from L. Jones before we actually entertain the motion.
Right. So, Ian, I'm wondering, are we able to do that before deferred business?
Yeah, I have no problem with that. You'll just approve that. You'll approve the agenda as amended.
Okay. All right, great. So let's move 10.2.1 ahead of. Where would it be on the schedule? Or the agenda,
so we'll just have that moved up as the first item of business.
Okay, all right, cool.
And then
So we'll have that.
We'll handle the numbering on the back end.
All right, great, sounds good. So we're gonna do that first, and then we'll move on to the regular scheduled agenda. So have a mover for the amended agenda. Moved by Commissioner Mcdougall, seconded by Commissioner Blackburn. Thank you. All those favor? Aye. And I believe that's all we need to do, Clerk?
Yeah, so the agenda was approved as amended, which moves 10.2.1 to the first item of business, and then we'll continue on with the regular scheduled program.
Excellent. So any business arising out of the minutes? Seeing none, call for declaration of conflict of interest. Seeing none, so we're going to move to 10.2.1, Commissioner Mcdougall, BOPC committee to define the defunding police terms of reference. So I'll ask you, Carol, if you want to either put the motion on the floor now or hear from Mr. Jones first and then put the motion on the floor. So I'll leave it up to you.
So again, in terms of procedure, is it appropriate or possible for us to hear from L. Jones first? I know her day is very busy, and I really would like her to have an opportunity to update us. And we have voted already to support the work that she's doing. What's on the agenda is a motion to accept the terms of reference. So that's what I would hope we could do. Is that possible?
Yep. So that's not a problem at all. So if Ms. Jones is there, I believe she is.
Can you hear me? Or am I on mute?
We got you.
Well, I guess you would be able to hear me if I was on mute asking. So good morning, everybody.
Thank you for joining us. We'll give you the regular 10 minutes, I believe, to if you have a presentation. Honestly, it's really up to you how much you want to share.
I don't think it's that It's not that long of an update.
Cool,
Certainly, I'm
great.
also open to the questions. The main questions that we have on our end are around logistics. So the full committee is in place, and I can forward the names for that to the Board of Police Commissioners. I think what's most exciting about this committee is that we are able to have the majority of the committee of people with lived experience from various walks of life, lived experience of being a refugee, of being in child welfare system, of incarceration, of various experiences in communities with sexual violence. So we're very happy about that because it means that we're hearing from people across the city with a range of experiences. So that committee is in place. We're in the process of the dreaded doodle poll to try and find meeting dates that we can all agree on. As you can imagine, what takes a long time is trying to coordinate everybody with schedules. And of course, COVID makes that difficult as well with people's childcare responsibilities. So we're in the process of coordinating meetings. And our main questions are really around logistics in terms of the public engagement. So we do want to hold public hearings. Again, I know we've been in and out with COVID in terms of public, not public, virtual. I did send an email to the clerk's office, and that may have got lost in the shuffle, and I also myself did not follow up getting lost in the shuffle, so I can reconnect. But it would be very good to, one, have some help setting up those public hearings, and then two, the other question we have is around, we have a survey that we would like to send out so that people have the ability in the broader public to obviously engage with this work and have critique or opinions. And so we can do that through SurveyMonkey, but we are also wondering the best way to be able to distribute that further to the public, whether that's a website, whether that's some kind of portal within an existing website. So those are the main questions right now. So this is a quite brief update. The answer is there is a committee. We are in the process of meeting. That's all going ahead, and our main questions are logistical around particularly completing the public engagement pieces.
Great, thank you. So really quickly, on terms of your end, two questions was logistics for the committee, so supports for public feedback and information meetings, and also there was another question, I missed that the other one.
We have a brief survey, or just for people to be able to give their feedback and engagement from the general public that aren't part of the committee or aren't planning on presenting, but would like to have something to say. So we just have questions about how that would best be done, whether that would be through a portal, whether we need our own website, whether we can just get an email address and distribute it. That may be between us and the clerk's office to coordinate, but that's our biggest, I think, outstanding question.
Okay. And then the last thing I'll just get you to speak on before I go to commissioners for questions, in terms of reference that we have to discuss today. Are there any pieces of that that's concerning, or you support it? Anything at all on that?
No, I can't think of anything, but I certainly can answer questions if people have.
Okay. Comments. All right, so I will start with Commissioner Mcdougall, then Commissioner Blackburn, who's been working closely on this. So Commissioner Mcdougall, would you like to, if you have any questions for Ms. Jones before we get into discussion?
I really don't have any questions. I'm just grateful that she's been able to join us today and to bring us this update. And I'm really looking forward to having this move forward. And so that's all I can say.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Blackburn.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I guess this question might be more for Jacques as opposed to Ms. Jones. I'm just wondering, is it possible to work with corporate comms to get this survey out to the public, whether it's through our, can we use our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, etc., to get a link out there to get as much exposure to this as possible?
Good afternoon, everyone. I think so. I guess the committee, I'm reading that the Board of Police Commissioners wants to support the committee in any way it can. So, certainly can help create space I guess my question is, you know, what degree of separation does the committee want to have with respect to HRM's website? Do you want, do you want to have your own presence? I mean, that's a question I would have. I mean, we have no issue around supporting that in one way or the other. A link to our website or a direct page or part of our website as part of, or I would say the part of the Board of Police Commissioners space on the website. So we're open to any conversation or discussion around that.
Okay.
And certainly,
So I guess we'll,
we could certainly
so
the clerk, corporate comms and the clerk can work together on this with the committee and go from there.
perfect. All right. Just as long as that connection is made, we can get Ms. Jones connected with the clerk's office, and then in turn, the clerk's office can work on these issues. Then that's perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Blackburn.
Thank you.
Commissioner Borden.
No questions, just a comment to say that I'm excited to see this is the progress that's being made on this, and excited to see this go forward, and really look forward to being a part of the consultations where I can. Thanks very much to Ms. Jones and folks she's working with, and Carol and Lisa for keeping an eye on things. This is a great step.
Great, thank you. Totally agree. Moving on to Commissioner Kent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and of course I too want to say thank you, and not only now but in advance of a lot of work that you have before you, Al, and all of the team that has taken this challenge on. One question I have, and it might be that it's because I am new to the commission, I'm not sure, but will we as a commission have a review opportunity of the survey so we have a little sense of what the questions are? Often when surveys are released, there's sometimes there's criticism of the types of questions and different things like that, and I don't know, or would this level, the commission have any role in approval of before it goes out? So I don't know if that's been done in the past, but I just feel like as a commission, it's really representing us, that it would be a reasonable step for us to have some insight into what that survey might look like. So, and I'm as well, Jacques, and certainly Lisa and everyone here on the commission, I'm certainly happy to hear that we have a willingness to support the public hearings and the dissemination of the survey. It's an important piece of work, and anything we can do. I don't think it's a stretch to think that many of the councillors who have a wide reach within their districts would also have the means to help get this move this out into the public realm through our social platforms. So I hope that we will have that opportunity as well. So maybe I can get an answer to that question around the insight into the survey before it goes live.
I have no issue with it being reviewed. I think that's great. That's no problem. It's going to be it is fairly open-ended. So we're not asking like leading questions. It's mostly to allow people to have input, but I think it's fine if people want to look at it, as you said. It is going out in the name of the Board of Police Commissioners, so I think that's reasonable. Our main goal with the survey and engagement is because obviously we're aware that some people disagree and want to have input as well, and that was one of the critiques of this commission in the first place, that would this be, something that was only people who are already true believers? So we definitely want to make sure that there's a platform for everybody to have their input. And that is obviously of concern to us, that we want voices across the spectrum to be heard. So the survey is one way of doing that. We also would like to have some kind of email address or something where feedback can be sent, because we certainly don't want to pretend that other people who have dissenting views don't also get to have input that may not otherwise be heard. So that's our main concern with both of those aspects.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
No, good. No, just keep going. I just saw him already put his hand up, but no, sorry.
Mr. Chair, just that, the commission could either go with that understanding, or if they wanted to, they could add it to the motion.
Okay, thank you.
A motion around the commitment to bring the survey here before it is released. Is that what you're talking about?
It's quite possible. When we get to the motion, then, you know, the commission will have an opportunity to amend the motion as they want, and that could be an amendment, depending on whether you want to go in that direction.
Well, while I have the floor, I'm okay with not necessarily putting in the motion. I would not want that interpreted publicly as us sanctioning again the opportunity the public has to bring forward their concerns and their positions and opinions. So I'm comfortable with what Elle has answered.
I can certainly distribute it, and if people want to give feedback, we can take that. If we don't need it to be official, I'm certainly happy. There's nothing that we can't send out. So if people would like to get an opportunity for feedback or critique, we can certainly send that before we send it out to the public, whether or not that's an official motion or not. I have absolutely no issues with that. I think it's good common sense. So we will certainly distribute that before we send it out to the public and give the opportunity for feedback from you.
Yeah, I think that's the best way forward for sure. Just send it to us and we'll comment if needed. Appreciate that. Commissioner Beals.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't really have any questions, but I did want to echo my appreciation for Elle in the work that the committee has before them. I do have a question in terms of the committee. How many members exactly are we expected to have at this committee for this work?
I'm trying to do a count in my head. It's somewhere between 10 and 12. I can't remember exactly.
Okay. And is there any representation from Dartmouth?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Yes. But no, those are great questions. There's actually quite good distribution from across different walks of life, from different experiences, different communities. That's something we're quite happy with, and certainly different neighborhoods. And that's something that worked out really well and that took a bit of time to ensure, but we're really happy that we have that broad representation.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Excellent. And Commissioner Thomas.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to echo everybody else's thoughts on all the work that's being done here. It's really appreciated and look forward to the work when it's completed, but I have no questions at the time, Chair. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Leaves me, so again, I'll echo the appreciation from the commission here on taking on this work. Ms. Jones, I know it's a lot, and I know that you juggle many things in your life, and being able to take this on as one of them, we definitely appreciate. And my question is really, you answered it at the beginning, was what do you think this committee would need in terms of support, which you spoke about, and we got some answers for that. So happy to hear. And I was wondering, in terms of your membership, if you were able to hit the goal of the folks that was mentioned in the terms of reference, and if you said 10 to 12 people in, just counting really quickly off your head, and that's kind of the count looking at what the terms of reference is. So I'm assuming that would mean that you've most likely hit on the membership pieces that in the terms of reference. So other than that, I don't really have much more, and we'll have a discussion here. But I think this work is important, and I'm really thankful that you and the folks involved have taken it on.
Thank you. And as I said, we will submit that list of names. We just wanted to. Right. Yeah, so we can send that anytime. We have that list.
So really quickly then, so thank you, Ms. Jones. So in terms of the list, Ian or Mr. Clerk, do we have to do an approval of membership? What is or with this motion today, we're saying that the members that are listed on the terms of reference will be fulfilled by the committee itself. So how do we deal with that piece?
So the motion today is approval of the terms of reference. It's approval of the formation of the subcommittee and directing the committee to follow the terms of reference themselves, and a requirement that a report will be provided. Right. So what you're doing today is empowering all the work to be able to occur, and empowering that the work will be done through what is required in the terms of reference.
Great. So we don't need to come back like we would do for any other committee and approve the membership. We are saying today, do that work, and now you can come back with the final work.
I believe that's how the terms of reference was written, to empower that to happen that way.
Okay, great. All right, well, I'm happy, any red tape we can eliminate to make this work go, I definitely approve of. If that's it, Ms. Jones, I'm not sure if you have any other questions or comments or clarification you may need before we let you ride off into the sunset.
No, it's pretty straightforward. I'll also probably update you on renewed timelines. As you know, you have ambitions, and then life for everybody gets in the way, and coordinating a lot of people obviously takes more time than you hope, I guess, or than you imagine. But so we'll submit also updated timelines that will change in the terms of reference, although we don't anticipate being too far off. Really, once the hearings are completed, we're fine for timing. So it's really just the timing of the hearings.
Okay. All right. Well, again, appreciate your time. We'll let you go, and we'll continue with debate. And if we need you, we know how to find you.
Yes, perfect. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much.
All
for your
right.
time.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Have a good day.
All right.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye. All right, Commission. So we are going to go into debate and discussions around the terms of reference in the motion that is in front of us today. So I'll ask again if Commissioner Mcdougall can put the motion on the floor, and then we'll start discussion.
So I'm happy to put the motion on the floor. Should I read it, or is it going in the chat?
Whatever works for you. It's in the chat as well.
I would ask if it could be read out loud, because the live streaming does not have access to the chat, so it's good to have it on that.
Okay, good. So the motion is that the Board of Police Commissioners first approve the terms of reference as outlined in Attachment 3 for the committee to define defunding police. 2, approve the formation of the committee to define defunding police, directing the committee to follow the terms of reference in completion of the committee's role to review relevant research, conduct community engagements to allow citizens to express their view regarding the definition of defunding police. And 3, that the committee to define defunding police shall submit a written report to the Board of Police Commissioners. I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Blackburn. You were close. You were close, Commissioner Ward.
No worries.
All right, Commissioner McDougall.
So I just would like to give a little bit of context for this. That we, as a committee, as a board commission, endorsed a community advisory committee to define defunding. We chose to use those words after a motion was presented to us last July. So the series of documents that are accompanying this motion outline the chronology, and L. Jones provided us with a proposal outlining the approach she would take. We were able to pose questions about that proposal in November, and my memory is we spent about an hour doing that. And we voted to allow her to recruit the committee while the board appointed a working group, namely Lisa and I, Lisa Blackburn and I, to look at what the committee might need in the way of support so that it could undertake the various activities that it was going to undertake. So the outstanding item is this motion, which is really giving her the ultimate authority to really proceed with the work that she proposed to us. And so I hope everyone has had a chance to read through these documents and can comment and ask questions, and we can get on with the vote. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'll go to Commissioner Blackburn.
Nothing further to add. I've been over the terms of reference a few times now, and they look solid to me. I will say a big thank you to Al Jones for this work that she is doing is already getting some recognition, I guess, from other groups that are doing similar work, and I appreciate Al Jones, sort of giving her thumbs up to allowing the work and the research that she uncovers to be used in the greater report that is being produced for council as well. So, this is very important work that she is going to be doing in the coming months, and it is appreciated not only by this board, this commission, but also by the council as a whole. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Blackburn. Commissioner Borden.
Yeah, just want to say, number one, I think it's amazing that this work will be used for council as well. I think the continuity in the information and, is really, really important. So very, very glad to see that that's been adopted by council. And I guess I would just, remind folks that the purpose of the work, was to provide a recommendation to the board. So I didn't want folks to lose sight of that work will inform a definition that will be a recommendation to the board, and then the board will have further discussion about what to do with that recommendation. But I think the documents are very complete, very informative, and no other comments from me.
Thank you. Commissioner Kent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you again for that clarification, Natalie. I just want to be reminded of sort of what the intended use of the information is as a commissioner. I am certainly happy to support this. I trust in the work that has been done so far by the commissioners who have been part of this all the way along this journey. I'm satisfied with the conversations that we have had with Elle, and I'm certainly satisfied looking at this report. I do see that within the report there are things, I guess I just want to make sure, understand it. Where did that go? I can't find it, but it referenced the use of the information that would, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find it here.
Is it maybe top of page 4 on the report?
What? No, what is, okay, so I see what is defunding, and then there was something that reflected that it was like, the way it was worded was that would have implied that we already had the terminology of, or the definition of defunding, and then it was attached to policy-driven things. So I just caution us to be mindful of not getting ahead of the language that we have made assumptions around an acceptance of a definition prematurely. The whole process that's happening now is that we can get where on a page where we all accept what the definition is, then it gets applied to the policies, and there's a lot of work to be done after that really incorporates that word defunding, right? Because we need to define what that is before we can endorse it being part of something. So it was just one particular instance, and I think rather than me getting tied up on this right now, and I would like to review that a little bit more, I'll just raise it later. I'm certainly supportive of the motion.
Okay, great. Thank you for bringing that up. Commissioner Beals.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only question I have is related to the financial implications, as laid out in the report. And I'm just wondering, is there an update, a sort of a rough estimate of what the committee is going to need in terms of a budget?
Yeah, good question. I'm not sure. Maybe Jacques would be able to answer that. I'm not sure actually.
My apologies, Mr. Chair. I didn't catch the question actually.
Yep, that's fine. Commissioner Beals.
I'm just looking at the financial implications, and I'm just wondering if there's been a sort of a rough estimate of what the committee is going to need in order to do this work.
I can't speak to that because I do not believe that my office was involved in any estimation of costs associated with that. So I would defer to Commissioner Mcdougall or Commissioner Blackburn. I think there were some monies anticipated. I should correct myself. I think there were some monies anticipated to the tune of $7,000 or $8,000 that was within the Board of Police Commissioners' budget itself. But that's about as much as I can recall. Sorry.
Okay.
Yep, Commissioner Mcdougall.
So I can just respond to that. I think we allocated at a meeting, I believe in December, up to $9,000 to cover costs, but the costs were to be allocated to non-waged people who were participating, who may need childcare, who may need to participate, may need some support with transportation to attend meetings if they were not virtual. Was that kind of discussion at that point? If in fact these meetings do become public, we're so fortunate that we can get there, it could also include things like tea and coffee, water for the meeting itself. But I think we've yet to come to a figure. I don't know, Lisa, do you have any comments about that?
No, that pretty much covers it. We were able to, based on the estimates of what it would cost to have these meetings, we determined back in December that this could all be covered in our usual Board of Police Commission budget. Since in the past year we haven't done any travel or anything like that, we have money set aside that can be used for this.
Okay, and I know in the past when we were speaking about this, we mentioned that it might be good to offer the committee members some form of an honorarium. Was that included in any of the discussions, or where are we at on that?
Well, I actually had a conversation with Elle about that, and her feeling was that we should focus more on the non-waged participants to help them participate, as I've just outlined, with childcare or transportation or whatever, as opposed to offering an honorarium for individuals to participate.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Kent, do you want to speak on it?
Yeah, yes, I want to, if we're done on just that particular point, yep. I want to revisit what I was talking about. Excuse me. So if we go to page 18, we see of what we have available to us, we see report. And when I look at that report, I'm absolutely can get behind the providing a definition of defunding. That's what we've tasked them to do. Then we go on to providing an overview of major research, history of discourse on defunding, and I think that should be almost like that on defunding in this context, and current debate around defunding and abolition. That's fine. Review practices in other municipalities, but when I get to addressing relevant board municipal policies and policy proposals that could facilitate defunding, there is in that statement alone, there is an assumption that we have a definition. And so and also articulating what defunding would look like in policy. To me, that's a jump to, we've already endorsed what it is that defunding means. I'm wondering if we could change something of that nature or communicate back to the committee that it would be recommending relevant board municipal policies or policy proposals that could facilitate defunding based on the new definition that we define. I may be picking this a little bit too close, but we've not landed on a definition, but we're using that terminology now in what is saying there's going to be suggestions to address and what it could look like in policy. But until I'm not sure if you're following what I'm saying. And again, I think this just needs to be maybe articulated to the committee that this will be recommending, and we've not landed on that place. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it.
No, that's good feedback, and I don't want to jump in unless somebody else wants to speak. No. So what I would say to that is, and this was going to be part of my piece, so I think we can talk a little bit more of that when it comes to my opportunity, because I was going to ask the commission, because one of the first issues that was being brought to my attention and then questions around this, and talking about terms of references, are any of the aspects of what we have seen from the proposal out of scope from what we've asked for. So right. that is a question that I think you're already starting to have that discussion. And when I look at the terms of reference, what is in there is doesn't directly speak to what you just mentioned. So going off the terms of reference, it has in the report will include a definition of the funding, overview of the current research and debate around the funding, practices from other municipalities, summary of community presentation, summary of what the funding could look like in HRM. So the question then becomes, when we say summary of what the funding could look like in HRM, are we then speaking on the point that you brought up in the report, where articulating what the funding would look like in policy and practice? So both of them read differently to me, but could be interpreted as the same thing. So that is the question I was going to ask, and if we want to talk about that now before I go to Commissioner Thomas, we can. And I see Commissioner Borden, you have your hand up. So yeah, I'll go to Commissioner Borden.
Yeah, I just put a comment in the chat. What we've talked about from the beginning, and these would all be recommendations.
Right.
That the recommendations would come to the board. So I think if there's some, if there's a lack of clarity in the wording, I think that can be easily fixed. And I think that would likely be, an easy thing to incorporate into the motion. But I think the intent all along was, if there's a logical progression, the definition then would lead to, potential opportunities, which would then potentially lead to policy changes. But I think, again, at every piece of that continuum, they're really just recommendations, and the ultimate decision lies with the board. So I don't think that there's an issue with just clarifying that wording around that, because that's just consistent with the direction that that has been given.
Yeah, right, sure. Commissioner Mcdougall, on that?
Yes, on that point, I just want to add that that if in fact some of the recommendations that come to us would virtually apply more within a council responsibility, those are things that council can decide to look at or not themselves. And I think Lisa also mentioned that some of this work that Elle's committee is going to be doing could in fact inform some of the work that will be done out of a motion from Councillor Mason last August, I believe. And I think there's something coming forward, or a project that's underway already, which would look at some of the vastness of bylaws and policies for HRM as opposed to the board. The whole point of this commission or this committee was to come up with a definition for us, for the board itself, so that it could in fact align very well with council. But we are not council. We are separate from council, and we are out of the Police Act. So I think it's important for us to remember that we've got two separate bodies here.
All right, thank you. Any more comments on that specific piece before I go to Commissioner Thomas? No, Commissioner Thomas, you have any comments or questions?
No comments at the time, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, great. So really quickly, just to keep on that piece. So, you know, I think the terms of reference are very clear on what we've asked, and obviously the makeup, and you know what the purpose is. In you know, obviously the commission, the committee will work with the members to figure out how that will be done. So really the biggest piece for me when I was thinking about if I had any concerns in terms of reference, it was the summary of what defunding could look like in HRM. That was the only concern I had, only because the original motion didn't speak specifically to presenting recommendations for us on defunding. It was more around the definition, but the original motion also says clearly, you know, further the definition of defunding the police should be based on the following, and then the last one is investing in resources that have been proven to support community risk and promote crime prevention. So, you know, that original motion doesn't clearly say bring back recommendations, but it does say, in a sense, we want to know how defunding can work. So that was the only concern. But once this report came and I was able to kind of look in the, you know, back in the past, I don't think it's out of scope. I think the committee is doing what we've asked them to do, and as Commissioner Borden said, we can add on the motion that, oh, did I close that down? I did. We can add to the motion maybe at the end for number 3, the committee to define the funding the police shall submit a written report to the Board of Police Commissioners with recommendations, and we can make it clear if that works. And I see the lawyer with his hand up, so let's see what Marty has to say.
Yeah, it's implicit. I think as Commissioner Borden said, it's implicit that these would be recommendations only. But you know, I wonder if it would help to change the word would to could in the last sentence.
Oh, like what I just said, not the actual motion itself.
That's right. In report, what the funding could look like.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, Marty, that it would be a simple change like that could be most effective here.
Because that puts it in the realm of possibility only, depending on what the commission thinks, right?
Okay. If there's no one that has any issues with that, I'd see that as a friendly amendment on the terms. It doesn't change the scope at all.
Right.
Yep. Mcdougall.
So could you just say that again, Marty? Change the last point in the terms of reference. So it reads summary of what defunding could look like in HRM.
Well, no, yeah, it says articulating what defunding could look like, as opposed to, you know, what it would look like, right? I think there's some concern here that perhaps the wording suggests that it takes it further than just recommendations, you know, in terms of clarity.
So I think actually I'm confused as well. I've got so many pages open because in the terms of reference it says could already. But I might have actually said would. So that way it might be confusing.
That's why I was questioning. It actually, in the original that I proposed, that then went through a variety of people, through legal, through the word could was there as opposed to would.
Okay. So.
Mr. Chair, I have copied the report language from the terms of reference and put it in the
Right.
chat, so everybody has quick access to it.
Right.
Mr. Chair, I have another comment.
Yep. Commissioner Kane.
Yeah, and I, excuse me, Marty, I appreciate your comments because I do feel, and yours, Mr. Chair, around part of this report is, to me, is stretching outside of the mandate of the original adoption. Even, and I think we need a subtle change as well to the bullet that is addressing relevant board municipal policies. There's no, this committee has no functional power to address. They have the power to articulate, again, relevant board municipal policies, proposals that could facilitate defunding. They don't have the power to address it. We would have the power to address it. And this is, and power is a poor, maybe power, or authority, I should say, not the power. And I'm not trying to limit anyone's scope. I just know that when we use language that implies authority, it's easy to stretch into the full extent of thinking that their actions become, or what's written becomes actionable immediately, and it's not that. So not that we won't get there, because that would be the goal. So just a thought, maybe Marty, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say on that.
Really quickly before Marty speaks. So just for clarification, the Commissioner Kent, you're talking about attachment, just for anyone that's following along, just so they know, attachment 2, which is the presentation that we received from Ms. Jones, and this was before we did the terms of reference. And so before we did terms of reference, and then the terms of reference was changed to reflect that comment that you had. So where it was a summary of what defunding could look like in HRM. So what you're mentioning was a concern initially, and then it was changed in the terms of reference to be more in line with, recommendations there. And I'll let Marty speak if you have anything further, but just want to make sure that clarification was there.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I frankly just wanted to add the same thing, right? That was the early version here, and it perhaps creates some confusion because it's
okay.
Ended without the changes, right? So.
Right.
I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great. Commissioner McDougall.
Just as a final point before I call for the question, I just want to mention that the terms of reference were built around the original proposal, but some of the changes in the terms of reference that didn't agree completely with the original proposal were as a result of some of the discussions we had in November, and then again in December when Lisa and I brought back a budget figure and talked about it again. So yeah, it's been a journey, but the volume of documents supporting this kind of made it look like all of these things were definite and done, as opposed to this is the specific moment right now to support and propose and support the terms of reference. So I don't know, am I allowed to call for the question?
Just really quickly before you do that, I just want to make sure we close this loop around the comment that was made that should we add on the main motion, bring back recommendations to us. If we feel that the terms of reference covers that, we don't need to, but I just want to make sure that if anyone wants to add that to the main motion, that we do that before the question. Yep, Commissioner Kent.
Yeah, I will speak to that. I don't think we necessarily have to. Now that I've got a little more clarity on what these terms of reference are, I didn't know. I got the impression that this was a newer presentation, but if it isn't, and I trust that you folks have had a really good dialogue on what brought I just didn't want a confusion between the two, so I'm satisfied with that. I don't feel we need to. That is clearly what they're going to be coming from, this committee.
Great. So in that case, you can call for the question.
I'm calling for the question.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, that passes. Good work, Commissioner Blackburn, Commissioner Mcdougall. Thank you for that, and also Ms. Jones for her work, and everyone that's going to be doing this. So as a follow-up, Ms. Jones says she's going to come back to us with a revised timeline as well. So expect that in a future meeting. And I believe we're off to the races now. So going back to our originally scheduled agenda, which had 7.1 proceeds of crime, and that was deferred January 18th, 2021. And I believe there is information attached to that. And I think Chief Gray may have some information that was asked for by the commission to speak on.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. So the information that was provided to us from the Department of Justice is attached to these 3 small slides. What's important to note is that there actually is not a public, as they refer to as a public-facing program currently. You can go to the second slide if you want. I'm just summarizing the information that's in the documents that was provided to you ahead of time. As they refer to it as a public-facing mechanism for accessing monies. They are currently, of course, working on that. Ms. Crichton there who is the Director of Public Safety and Investigations, provided us with this information. There is a mechanism for police, but not public. And of course, as a Board of Police Commissioners, you would be referred to as a public party. So they will be creating a process. However, what currently stands is only for police, federal, provincially, to be able to access the monies through the regular process. Ms. Crichton was happy to, or would be happy to come in the future and present the information that that they're working on. However, at this time, there's limited information there.
Okay. Great. That was quick and concise. I'll just go to members. I'll start with Commissioner Mcdougall.
Thank you very much, Janice. This was really good to see. I'm wondering, since there is about to be a process that would allow the public, i.e. boards like us, to apply or get a different understanding, I'm wondering if a letter from the chair might support that some speed with that decision, or that moving it forward or whatever. And we could also ask, if the commission agrees, to ask other municipal commissions in the province to do the same, to support this, because it is a bit of a surprise. I didn't know that this was available or could be available, and it's a really good thing to know about and for us to support, considering we're supposed to reflect the needs and values of the community. Thank you.
So really quickly, so would if we were to write a letter, just to clarify what you're saying, it would be more on the sense of they should share that information widely, or that the process that they're working on to figure out submitting that should be done faster, or not faster, or more timely, whatever you want to say?
I think generally to say that we understand that's underway and we're supportive and look forward to the results. And yes, we would like someone to come and speak to us about it at some date in the future, just so that there's more information.
Okay. If the commission would want to do that, I'll leave it up to you to put a motion, or I don't really need a motion, but depending how official you want it to be. I'll let you think about it and come back to you if you feel that something official needs to be done. Commissioner Blackburn.
No further questions from me at this time. Thank you. Like Commissioner Mcdougall, I was. This is great information to have. I wasn't aware of a lot of this, so this is great. Thank you.
Excellent. Commissioner Borden.
I'm good. That's great. Great news. Thank you.
Commissioner Kent.
Thank you. No, I'm good.
Commissioner Thomas.
I'm good as well, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
And Commissioner Beals.
I'm also good. Thank you.
Excellent. So yeah, really, again, I thought it was good news. I'd be curious, and I can add this to my next meeting agenda when I speak with the DOJ of you know what, if there's any support we could play in helping them get that information to the public. Obviously, I know there's many levels to doing that, but I'll add that to the agenda. If you want me to do something more official, like a letter, or even if it's an email to, sorry, I forget the name that Chief Gray mentioned, I could do that as well. But yeah, I think if we could support that in any way, that'd be great. But really, I had nothing either. Any follow-up, Chief, or you're okay? Okay, great. All right, so thank you for that. We're going to move on to, there's no motion. I'll add that to my, just to close that loop, I'll add that to my agenda with the DOJ next time I have a chat with them. Okay, so update on community survey 7.2, deferred on the January 18th meeting. I don't know if Chief Kinsella, if you have any comments that you want to share on this before I go to commission.
No, just through you, Chair, to the commission. You have the report, the information report. If there's any questions, we're happy to take them.
Okay, great. All right, I'll go backwards this time, starting with Commissioner Beals.
Thank you. I don't have any questions.
All right, Commissioner Thomas.
I don't either, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Kent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I'm good. Thanks.
Commissioner Borden. Commissioner Blackburn. Oh, sorry. I thought you, okay.
It was your
All right.
thumb up.
Yeah. Commissioner Blackburn.
No further questions for me either, sir.
All right, and Commissioner Mcdougall.
I don't have a question. I just want to make a comment that we have a number of policies, and in one of those policies says we have to encourage or cause the police, HRP to, and RCMP to conduct a community survey occasionally. I don't think it says a time frame, but we felt it was important enough to include it as a policy of our commission. So I'm delighted that we have this report and summary, and hopefully we can move forward with this.
Great. The only thing I had, which I forget because I didn't take the time to look up the original report, was the timeline. I knew we had a timeline for this. What was that, Chief?
Through you, Chair, I don't know that we've established a timeline, so I think that's part of the discussion today. And you know, I would just comment and suggest that there's an awful lot of work being done through the various committees that are going to be reaching out to the community. So I'll leave it with that, and then get some direction from the commission.
Right. So that's actually an excellent point. So considering we have three, I don't want to call them competing, but they're very similar processes that are going to be happening. We have the one that we just spoke about, the committee on the defunding the police. We also have the motion that came to council that was around the resource, I guess resource review, or what is the Commissioner, maybe Jacques, what the title of the one that came to council, was that mostly focusing on resource allocation? And it had a lot of things in it. I just can't find the easy way to explain it.
Yeah, it is a bit complex given where we are in various processes, but you know, to make it to sum it up, it's a review of police services in the context or under the lens of what can sworn officers do or should do and how can they be supported by our social agencies, and who should do what under certain circumstances. In other words, should a sworn officer always be sent in initially or not, and under what circumstances? What can be civilianized per se? You know, I know that the chief has been looking at all those things since he's in fact been here, but we've been asked by council to take the CEO has been directed by council to actually take a look at that and come back with a report. My intention was obviously to allow the work that Ms. Jones is going to undertake now to unfold first, and then we would get on with that work, you know, in part inspired by the outcome of that review, because we didn't want to get out and effectively engage the public at the same time on issues that are kind of related, right? So the issue of defunding, the definition of the defunding police implies that you would fund police perhaps differently than you're funding now, and you may want to fund other agencies in a more enhanced way, right, in terms of the social side of public safety. So that's sort of where that's how I sort of understand the direction now. So as soon as Ms. Jones is finished with her work, I will then formally launch the other process. Not that we have been sitting idly. My public safety advisor and Mr. Johnson from Government Relations, External Affairs in my office, we've been engaged in doing some background work and some environmental scanning work, but we don't want to actually get out there in the public with it until we get this other report first.
Right. So then looking at this survey that we're speaking on now, because we already had one company that it expired due to the timeline, and we had to engage another company. So should we be asking them to develop a draft survey so we at least have something? But at the same time, I know that nothing was put, what it says here, that due to the lack of clear certainty of the timeline, the community survey, there's no specific allocation in 21-22 budget for the policing survey. So are we okay to wait for that work, or are we going to run into the same issue where we might have to put another RFP out for a company again, or is there an understanding that we can hold off for a bit and then get the survey done? I'm not sure who has the answer for that.
So through you, Chair, I'll just make a couple comments on that. So MQO is the vendor that we do have now on file. What I would suggest is that there, needs to be some dialogue with the board, Chief Superintendent Gray, and HRP to see where do we go. And I'll take you back to previous presentations by previous vendors on what does the survey look like? Is it going to be electronic? How are we going to engage the community? How many community consultations? So I would suggest there is a little bit of discussion that has to happen to ensure that we're collaborative in our approach between the board, the RCMP, and HRP. And I don't know what the timeline would look like, but perhaps some discussion in the future would help us focus in on where we want to get to.
Right. So do we know, and maybe this information is available at the moment, do we know when their contract is to expire? Do we have the same kind of clause as we had with the original contract with the other vendor?
So through you, Chair, I don't have the exact amount of time that the standing offer is in place. I can get that, but we do have some time
Okay.
It's not something that we have to act on immediately, and it will be in place. I just have to confirm the length of time that it is in place.
Right. So let's get that information, just so we don't run into the same issue we did before, where the the standing offer expired and we had to go back out. Let's add to a future meeting a discussion around. Obviously, we're not going to talk about the survey and what's going to be in it, because we have some other processes that are happening. But let's start to at least have those discussions, especially understanding that we will lose memberships and have new members come on after. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not going to give a date, but soon. So I think it'd be good for us just to have, with those members who've been through this process, a really quick discussion on this things that you mentioned, Chief. Yep, I seen your hand, Chief.
So I've just confirmed that the standing offer is valid until September 2023.
Okay, great. So the question then is, members that are here, I don't want to make, I only know one member right now that will not be back because of terms, which is Commissioner Beals. Sad to lose you, but we obviously got to follow the terms of reference. So I'm wondering if we have to do this in our next meeting, which would be in April, which could, again, I don't know if that would be a problem in terms of timelines, if we'll have new members on board or not, or is this something that we can do offline through discussion? But again, I don't want it to go past our what we need to do in public and whatnot. So what is the best way forward so we can start to have this discussion, also understanding that the members who've been part of this are going to most likely be here or not. So that's for right now. I don't commission has any comments or potential ways forward.
Mr. Chair, if I may. So I don't know if one of my previous comments helped or hindered this conversation, but I just wanted to say this, is that as I understand the report that accompanied this item and the previous discussions of the board, this was really about basically getting feedback from the community on the quality and the impact and the nature of police services within the communities, right? So whether it's offered by HRP or ARCMP. The report that I'm been directed by council to do is not about that. This is really, this report is a customer survey, customer survey kind of survey, that a satisfaction survey, I guess, that was sort of right. It was, in fact, I recall, it was recommended that by in the Wortley report. I see it as somewhat independent and they're not mutually inclusive. I say they're kind of mutually exclusive. The extent that, yes, Ms. Jones and her committee will likely engage the public, but on a very different question, right? The question really then is, what does it mean? What does defunding police mean to you? And what's, they may come back with some ideas around delivery and how that delivery is undertaken. At the same time, the report that I've been asked to produce by council is one about how do police services actually unfold, and what's the best use of sworn officers versus non-sworn. So, the report that I'm asked to do is more related to the committee's report, in the sense it's more directly related. The customer satisfaction survey can happen anytime, right? So, so I guess I just offer that up, saying, if the Board of Police Commissioners wishes to engage in a customer satisfaction survey now, there's nothing stopping you from doing that, whether it's now or next fall or next year for that matter. The whole idea of somebody's on standing offer now, it's a bit of a moot point. Board of Police Commissioners can engage in one of these things at any time, and seek out services of a professional firm to do that, or help you do that. You know, the question then becomes is the actual survey design and the questions that are going to be asked, and you know, clearly you'll need some professional advice around that question, those questions, right? I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, and just for clarification, for me, because I might have been confusing. I was just saying for the commission itself, understanding that some of our members will be gone, and we haven't had a discussion on what should be in the survey. We had a brief discussion. Just wanted to make sure that if anyone who is here now wanted to have that discussion, do they want to do it before they want to do it at a meeting, etc. So that's really my question was, you know, what would be in the community survey? Do they want to have their input now before they, you know, potentially won't be here when we actually start doing that work? So if there isn't no follow up on that, I'm happy with what's been presented and understand what's there, and at a future date we'll come back to the commission to discuss this more. Anyone else have anything on that? Nope. All right, great. So we're done with deferred items. On to 8 correspondence, petitions, and delegations. I believe we have some correspondence. Actually, maybe we don't. Clerk, do we have any correspondence?
Sorry, I was just getting my mute off. Any correspondence we received has been submitted to the board. Nothing has been related or passed on to us since. I did have a question on item 7.2, Chair.
Yes.
There was a recommendation in that report that was on the report itself. I wasn't sure if that was the will of the board or if it was just going to be left like that.
1 second. Recommendation. Board, please request a proposal. Community development discussions. Oh yeah, there is a recommendation. So, do you want to put that in the chat, and then we can just put that on the floor real quick?
Yeah, I can put that on the floor, Mr. Chair. I've got the motion in front of me.
Okay, great. Yeah, please and thank you.
I move that the Board of Police Commissioners request that a proposal for an HRM policing community survey be developed based on discussions at the March 8th, 2021 Board of Police Commissioners meeting, and that the Halifax Regional Police return to a future Board of Police Commissioners meeting.
With a proposal.
With a proposal, correct.
Seconded by Councilor Mcdougall, or you have a question? Oh, you're muted.
I'll second it, but I do have a question. I think it should be Halifax Regional Police and RCMP. I think we're dealing with both services in this community service.
Yeah, that was going to be my comment as well.
No, you're right. So we'll amend that to say Halifax Regional Police and RCMP. Yeah, we already had a discussion on that. If there's no further comments, call for the question on that. Clerk, are we okay to add the RCMP piece to it?
Yeah, I'm just editing the motion and I'll update it in the chat.
Great, thank you. So that motion will read, just wait for it to come into the chat. The motion will now read that the Board of Police Commissioners request that the proposal for in Halifax Regional Police and Royal Canadian Mounted Police policing community survey will be developed based on discussion at March 8, 2021 Board of Police Commissioners meeting, and that the Halifax Regional Police return to a future Board of Police Commission meeting with the proposal. So again, because we added the RCMP, do we need to add it to the bottom piece as well?
Yes,
Okay.
you do.
All right. So it will read Board of Police Commissioners meeting, and that the Halifax Regional Police and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police return to the police commission with a proposal. All right. So with that, call for the question on the amended motion. Do we need to vote on the amendment?
If it's considered friendly, you don't have to vote on the.
Okay. All right. I think it's friendly. It was the intent. So we'll vote on the main motion. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Seeing none. Okay, great. Thank you, clerk, for catching that. Appreciate it. So in a future meeting, we'll have some more discussions on that piece. And we dealt with correspondence. There are no petitions. There's no presentations today. There's no information items that were brought forward. And moving on to 10, reports / discussions. 10.1 staff, 10.1.1 HR Mortley report recommendations update. And I'll go to Chiefs.
Thanks, Chair. And so I'll go if that works. And as far as community engagement, we just finished our second Journey to Change course as part of African Heritage Month. It was held in the last week of February, and a well-attended course and an interesting course as always. And you know, it's in a continuation to our follow-up to the commitments made from the November 2019 apology to the African Nova Scotian community. And we are looking at introducing that. It will be given to all of our new hires, and our new cadet program will receive the entire week of training. And I want to thank all the community members who continue to participate and deliver and share and help us all with our journey to change. As far as data collection, the committee that is meeting on a regular basis now in regards to data collection, it's been established by the Department of Justice. As I've reported in the past, Deputy Chief Don McLean, along with Ms. Kimberly Franklin of the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission, are co-chairing. They have met 5 times now and continue to do their work. So we expect to hear more on the important work that they are doing over the next little while. I know they have another meeting set for the end of March. And to date, we have had 11 Freedom of Information requests for street check information. So we continue to work with the community and inform them of their ability to obtain that information if they would like to. And we'll continue doing that as we move forward. And subject to any questions, that's my update.
Great, thank you. I'll get both reports and then we'll do questions. Yep, Chief, great.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. To date, the RCMP has received no ATIP requests in regards to our street check data. Our communications, our strategic communications section is continuing with their communication strategy, and as we're receiving our latest, the producing of our posters, which will be distributed throughout our communities. Those will be incoming very soon. In regards to data collection, as stated by Chief Kinsella, Inspector Pepper also sits on that local committee and also on the national committee, which meets every 2 weeks and has tight timelines in regards to beginning of collecting and reporting on police data relative to race. The RCMP African Canadian Experience, or ACE workshop, unfortunately was cancelled last week due to the increase in our COVID numbers, and that will be rescheduled quickly. Since our last board meeting, our diverse recruiting initiatives are continuing. We've had 1 pre-application virtual engagement session, a pre-exam virtual session, and 6 of our latest applicants have identified as visible minorities. We have a virtual career presentation that was today actually, or is today, and it's in regards to and in celebration of International Women's Day. And also we're working on arranging a new initiative called Coffee with a Cop, which is virtual meetings in April and May for applicants, and the police officers that will be participating in that will be from our African, Nova Scotian, as well as Indigenous background to participate with our candidates. And as stated before, we continue with providing our applicants with a pilot project and a questionnaire in regards to their bias, and in preparation or creating documentation and questionnaires for future candidates and training. And that's all I have on Wortley.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to do a general ask before I go one-on-one. Are there any comments from members on the reports given by the chiefs at all? Okay, so I see a few hands, so I'll go around then. So Commissioner Mcdougall. No, nothing for you. Commissioner Blackburn.
No, I just had a quick question of clarification. I thought I heard Chief Kinsella say that there's been 11 requests. Is that seems to be higher than normal? Is that perhaps an indication that we're getting some traction on folks wanting access to their information?
So that is the current state, and there has not been any requests in 2021 to date, but that is our running total, and we will continue to track that.
Gotcha. Thank you for the clarification.
On that piece, I wonder if I know in the past we did put out messaging on for folks to access that data. Maybe it's a good time for us to do a resend out of that information. So I'm wondering if that can be sent to the commissioners. So if we can share that information on, you know, whatever it might be, mouth-to-mouth social media platform, that this is how you access that information, etc. I know we did it in the past, but I'm not sure when the last time that might have been done.
Chair, through you, I believe that was last done in January, and you know, where we can, we continue to reach out to stakeholders. Happy to do that again if you would like.
Yeah, if you could send whatever messaging's going out to the commission, and then we can also send that out. That'd be wonderful. Commissioner Borden.
Thanks, Lindell. Just wondering, Chief Kinsella, how many staff have you had go through the Journey to Change program so far, approximately? It doesn't need to be exact.
Through you, Chair, and in answer to the Commissioner's point, we've had 46 to date.
Thank you. Awesome.
Yeah, that's good. Commissioner Beals.
Thank you. I have no questions.
And Commissioner Thomas.
No question at this time, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I was actually going to ask the same question as Commissioner Borden. How many have done it so far? So the next piece that is different from our usual check-ins with the Wortley report is preparation for 2-year Wortley report summary. So as we talked about last meeting when we got this report, it's been pretty close to 2 years, if not more, a little bit more, on when we received that. So I think it'd be important for us to, you know, we've consistently been getting these updates from the chiefs, which has been great, so thank you for that. But it might be a good time to look at doing a more public-facing, outside of the commission meeting report, or whatever it might be. I don't know. I don't want to impose what I think it could be, but I think we should have that discussion today on doing that 2-year update that could potentially include, you know, what has happened. Obviously, a review in the, you know, background of what was the report and what some, if not all, the recommendations were, how we got to where we are today. So, you know, timelines of when we received the report to the time that the minister put a moratorium, to the time they were banned, to where we are today. And it could also include maybe a checklist or the tracking sheet that shows what has been done, what's ongoing, and what's not, or it could be more. So that's why I wanted to add that to the agenda today, to just talk to the commission on if, doing this 2-year update, what do you envision should be in it? How do you think it could look? And should we even do a 2-year update? Maybe it's not, maybe it's redundant. So I just wanted to have that discussion because it's, it's kind of crazy how time flies. So I'll start with Commissioner Kent, who put the hand up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think a 2-year update is helpful if we are able to create something that we could put out to the public. I think the public are looking for something of that nature. Not everybody chimes into these meetings for us. I do feel good about the way that we have this as a standing item and that we're receiving information. If I don't think it's unreasonable after 2 years that something be created that is an official document of this board, an official article of information that we can always reference back to, in a number of ways that may or may not include a current meeting. But I do think that if there is I think great merit in having something that can be released that is the 2-year review to the public.
Sorry, Commissioner Borden.
No, I was just going to say, Linda, I think that's a great idea. I would just suggest from a timing perspective, the last update was end of September as required by the Wortley report. So you may want to time your years with that as a suggestion, because there is that document, that detailed document with the update on all of the recommendations that is on our website.
That makes sense. Good feedback. I'm just making notes just in case our clerks need as well. All right, so Commissioner Mcdougall, any comments?
I definitely agree. We need to do something to report to the community. And, maybe it starts with a report from the chair to council. I don't know if that makes sense, and council didn't ask for that, but it's kind of like our annual report summarizing what we did over the past year. This is not a bad time to think about doing that with Wortley, and which would then give an opportunity for media to talk with you about some of the steps that have been taken and changes, and things help you to explain things that are ongoing that kind of never end. They're always being dealt with, some of the points that he recommended. So I'm in favor of this. I don't know about the timing. Natalie mentioned the September date. There's also the date of the release and presentation of the report, which is March 29th, 2019. So, don't know.
When is the next time that we're due to give our annual report to council? Clerk, maybe you have that time or that date?
I'll just jump in here because I've been involved in a few of them, and it's usually the summer.
Usually in the summer, okay.
I believe it is scheduled for June.
Okay. June. So looking at the calendar here, well, if we could probably align that, we could probably align that with our annual report to council, which also could be our annual report to the community if we want to make it a little bit more broader than that. So I think June might be a possibility. I'll take that back and speak to some of you, some of the commissioners, and see how you feel with that. Okay, all right. So so far, timing the report as per the report in September, But if our annual report is in June, it wouldn't be too hard to get that done. So that's timing. We'll talk a little bit more about that. The other piece was something that could be shared with the public, which we definitely would be the most important aspect of it. And maybe we would have a simple version that's really easy to read, a 1 page, and maybe something that has a little bit more information that has all the background as well. Okay. I'll go to Commissioner Thomas.
Thanks, Chair, and just listening to all the comments, and I'm in favor of the recommendation for the 2-year report. Thanks.
And Commissioner Beals.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have anything further to add. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So question then is, we spoke on the timing, being released to the public, background. I'm assuming background would make sense of having that, of how we got here today. Do we want to add the tracking list, or should we have something that's more detailed in the report? And just you can just speak.
Yeah, the detailed tracker. So there's the monthly one that we do. That's sort of a summary. So the detailed one that was on the website, it may just be building on that because it goes into a lot more detail on each of the specific recommendations. The framework's already there, so it'd be easier than recreating a new document.
Right.
Okay.
So building on the detailed tracker that's online. Okay. When I had my meeting with the DOJ last week, spoke about a couple of things, but one of the things was I mentioned that we were hoping to do a 2-year update on Wortley. So they want to know from us if there's anything other than, you know, their responsibilities in the tracking and the recommendations, there's anything further that we'd want them to support this with. And they said, you know, if it's something that obviously they can share, they'd be more than happy to make sure we get that information. So anything from the commission that they think we should be asking the DOJ for in this 2-year update, aside from information that's in the tracking sheet? Yep, Commissioner Board.
Just a reminder, they did not provide an update on their items for the tracking sheet.
Okay, well, that was one of my items.
Yeah.
So that might be a good place to start.
Yeah.
Yes, so that was
Agreed.
one of my items. So getting the information. Also, they have a number of initiatives that they're working on as well. So which you're okay, I can ask them to provide that information for it as well. Okay, all right. And anything else on their end, DOJ? Seeing no one jumping ahead. Okay, so I'll take this back and speak with the chief and the chiefs, both chiefs, and whoever else would be part of getting that report done, and we'll try to get it done for June, if not June, September. But we'll try to get that done in that timeline to do that for the public, and obviously we'll come back and speak to commissioners on feedback once we get some kind of draft out. But yeah, so I don't know if we need a motion for us to develop that, or is that something we can just take back? And no, I don't think we need a motion for it. I'm seeing our lawyers say nope. That's all I need. All right, I got some marching orders with that. Are there any other further comments on the update, not just including the 2-year, before we move forward? Not seeing anyone put their hand up. All right, great. So
we'll just skip it.
Oh, Chief. Yep. Oh, okay. Maybe just unmuted by mistake. All right. So moving on to, we already dealt with. Oh no, we didn't. 10.1.2 Halifax Regional Police Information Technology Audit Action Plan. So, Chief Constella, that's you.
and a memo was provided along with our reports for this session. And the memo has a high-level summary of the work we're doing to address the IT security audit report results and the recommendations. Starting next month in April, we will be reporting to the board and bring forward detailed reports every quarter. We've agreed to implement all 39 recommendations that were put forth by the auditor, and we'll focus immediately on the highest risk categories. The overall body of work should be completed within an 18-month period. However, the highest priority recommendations will be addressed on an escalated timeline. A working group dedicated to implementing the audit recommendations has been struck. This group is reporting regularly to myself, and it consists of senior leaders as well as subject matter experts from HRP, Information Technology, Information Management, Policy, and the Criminal Investigation Division. I do want to reiterate that the Halifax Regional Police takes the findings of the audit very seriously and is committed to actioning them thoroughly and in a timely fashion. We thank the auditors for their diligence and engagement and for their focus on bringing important matters to the attention of HRP management. We have timelines for all of the recommendations and expect to have a number of them completed as committed to in April. So that report will be forthcoming for the board's consumption in April, and we'll specifically go through the recommendations and what we've accomplished by that time.
Great, thank you, Chief. Just go through the line really quickly. If there's any further comments on that, the memo outlined exactly
so
what the...
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to point out that we do have an in-camera session set up later on this meeting. If there's anything that needs to be discussed in camera or in private regarding that we do have that set up if required.
Right, exactly. So thank you, Clerk. In the next piece I was going to say is if there's any specific items related to the update that has to do with recommendations that were in the in-camera piece, we can definitely go to in-camera if need be. I'll leave that to the discretion of the commissioners. So if you do ask questions, I'll obviously be aware that there are two pieces of the audit report. So I'll start with Commissioner Mcdougall. If you have any comments on this.
No comments.
All right, great. Commissioner Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, it appears to me that Chief is taking this bull by the horns and definitely tackling this. So I appreciate the action plan that's been set forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Borden.
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Great. Commissioner Kent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm as well impressed with Chief's approach to this. I'm happy with that, and I look forward to the day when we can say everything's off that checklist.
Right. I agree. Commissioner Beals.
I'm good also, thank you.
And Commissioner Thomas.
I'm good, thank you, Chair.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm good as well. I don't know if anyone here wants to go in camera at the end of the meeting. If you do, just give me a quick wave or yell. But I feel confident that it is taken seriously, and the chief has a plan to move forward. Yeah, I don't see anyone saying they want to go in camera. So let's assume that we're not going to go in camera. And if you still decide that you want to at the end of the meeting, more than welcome to do that. But as of now, no plan to go in camera to discuss that item further. We already dealt with 10.2.1 at the beginning of the meeting. That was the committee on defining the police terms of reference. So thank you for that. So next we're going to 10.3 Commissioner Updates, Management Employee Relations Committee. I believe, Chief, that meeting that was supposed to be held last was rescheduled, but I haven't attended a meeting yet. So I don't know if there's any update on the Chief's end, but I believe the last meeting was supposed to it got rescheduled. Halifax Regional Police / Royal Canadian Mounted Police Chief updates. So passing it over to the chiefs.
I can go first. That's okay.
All right.
Through you, Chair.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you. So on February 3rd, Nova Scotia police agencies, including the RCMP, were advised that that our police officers would be vaccinated based on their age during the vaccination phase for the general population, which is phase 3. It was our expectation, based on the Government of Canada's recommended vaccine rollout, that guidelines that police officers would be included in phase 2. Nova Scotia Public Health's position does not appear to align with the Government of Canada's recommendations. So the RCMP Halifax District, as well as RCMP Nova Scotia, is working with our fellow chiefs of police representatives. And we're concerned about this and fully engaged, as we believe that our frontline police officers should be prioritized to protect themselves and the public that they serve. Together with the NS Chiefs of Police and the Department of Justice, we have met with Dr. Strang and his senior staff in February and have relayed our concerns. I'm bringing this to your attention as the board and as commissioners for your information only. We are continuing to work with our counterparts and senior leaders nationally and with partner and supporting associations to advance our position. That's for your information. Also, I know that it was brought to your attention through a letter from the Department of Justice Chair in regards to the proposed legislation that they are working on that will be impacting police services in Nova Scotia regarding the legislation for police articles. So an update from the RCMP and Halifax District is recently we have rolled out and in Nova Scotia policy, but also our national policy in regards to kitten clothing, and have recently collected and destroyed 4.7 tons of kitten clothing, which aligns with our national policy that already exists. So anticipating the new legislation, we have gone ahead of that and collected and destroyed that property. I wanted to welcome, I should have done this first, welcome our new inspector in Halifax District, which is Inspector Matt Turner. He's recently arrived, and is our East Ops Officer, and he is in place now. And following my last update is following the decision from Council not to approve the funding for our senior NCO position, which was Staff Sergeant, after being recommended through the Board of Police Commissioners. So I'll be looking at 3 options in regards to this: repurposing a general duty officer, status quo, as well as reclassifying a school or community resource position. We're carefully considering the options available to us, and we've decided that in the best interest of public safety, that we will be looking at reclassifying one of these positions, which would not just support our frontline supervisors, but also realign the responsibilities that people are doing off the side of their desk. When that decision is made, I'll be providing an update to the board. And happy International Women's Day.
Thank you, Chief. So what we'll do is I'll because there's a few things in the update, I'll get any questions from commissioners, and then I'll go to Chief Constella. So are there any questions directly to RCMP on that update at all? Yep, Commissioner Kent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Janice, can you tell me again just the piece around what the vaccine that you, if there's a role that we can play here and or council, can you just reiterate that around your vaccines and it being out of line with your federal situation?
Yes, thank you for your question, Commissioner, and through you, Chair. So I don't really have a recommendation. It was more of an information and what the commissioners choose to do in regards to supporting the police officers in this province in regards to, and it is our frontline police officers that are what we're asking to be vaccinated. Similarly, this past couple of weeks, police officers in Ontario as well as Newfoundland have expressed their concern and have since been brought up to the 2nd tier.
Okay. Thank you.
So thank you, Commissioner Kent. That's a good question. How in those places where officers were brought up to second tier, was that due to public advocating? Was that due to the unions advocating or the chiefs? So how did that, from your awareness, how did that happen?
Thank you, Chair, and through you. The question, and again, there's a lot of information attached to this, but the police officers that have been brought up to the second tier have been included as responding to medical emergencies, which, as we know, many of our police officers are first responders, and so as such, and especially in our rural communities, they are the first and sometimes the only medical response to people in distress. So the answer, Chair, would be yes to all of those things. It was their union, their management, as well as other political support.
Great, thank you. That helped. I didn't see anyone else had any questions. I'll just ask one more time. Any follow-ups? Nope. All right. Thank you, Chief Gray. Going to Chief Costello.
Thanks, Chair, and through you to the Commission. As we know, COVID cases are still being reported in our city, and HRP, along with our partners in policing, continue to respond and enforce the COVID protocols on a regular basis. We still get a lot of calls for service around COVID-related calls. And as always, we encourage citizens to educate themselves on the current health directives as they are changing with some frequency, and this in turn will help us slow the spread in our community. On February 26th, one of our employees at HRP tested positive for COVID, and we've been dealing with that since that day. And since that time, 3 others have also tested positive, all 3 directly related to the first positive case, and all related to the same facility. All members are in constant contact with public health and following their direction, and we obviously wish them the very best in their treatment and recovery, and we continue to provide support where we can. And just to Chief Superintendent Gray's point, the health and well-being of our employees and those we serve is paramount. We're working closely with public health and are following all established protocols. We're also working with the RCMP Nova Scotia Chiefs and public health, particularly through Dr. Strang, in a concerted effort and as a group to try to move our frontline officers, the ones that are out on, dealing with medical calls and every kind of call that there is, trying to move them up in the COVID vaccination list. So I just wanted to mention that as well, and so the Commission knows that we are, in fact, all of us are committed to this and trying to bring about the appropriate protections for the members. And although there was no direct related impact to the members as far as service goes, depending on how COVID strikes and who it infects, there could be situations where that may arise. So we'll continue to monitor that and as we move forward. The other thing I wanted to mention is that this month's road safety theme is Occupant Restraints, and throughout the month of March, our social media platforms are featuring educational messages and reminders that properly fitted car seats, booster seats, and seat belts can save a life and reduce injuries. We're amplifying this message as much as we can to try to get it out, and we'll continue to do that through the month. Our traffic unit is out in full force, and we continue to enforce the rules of the road, particularly as it relates to hazardous moving violations. And last month, over a 4-day period, in February, we issued 126 summary offense tickets to drivers throughout the region, primarily for speeding and distracted driving. We also continue to have a number of drivers driving over 50 kilometers over the limit, and sometimes much more than that. So we will continue to be out on the road, and we appreciate the community's continuous response to let us know where these types of things are happening, so we can appropriately and properly respond. On February 11th, at the request of Councillor Mancini, we participated in a virtual stakeholder town hall on policing and public safety. Along with members of the senior HRP team, I participated in a virtual discussion on public safety matters with almost 50 community leaders from Dartmouth North. While the pandemic and social restrictions continue, we look forward to finding ways to connect with our community. And we have had active input on what's happening in the community from our community leaders. And I mentioned that we had our second Journey to Change course and have completed that. And really, at the end of the day, we're focusing in on anti-Black racism, and we will continue to do that as a service as we move forward. And that's my report, subject to any questions.
Thank you, Chief. I see hand came, Commissioner McDougall.
So I'm just curious, I did see something in Councillor Mancini's newsletter that you had that meeting. And I was curious to know whether it was in public or virtual or how that worked.
And through you, Chair, to the Commissioner, it was virtual with invited stakeholders through the councillor.
Okay, good. Any other questions from commissioners? I won't go through the roll call. No, seeing none. Thank you, Chief, again for the update. Only question I have is related to the first piece. You know, we'd hate to hear that there are members who have been infected. Is that the proper word, Commissioner Borden? Infected with COVID-19? I don't want to, I don't want my medical professional frowning on me. We hate to hear that, and we wish them the best. So I guess you mentioned it about so far it hasn't affected service. So for the public, it'd be important to know, what is HRP doing to make sure that that one, hopefully it's contained and we're not seeing the spread further. But also, actually, we'll leave it there, and then I'll follow up with my other piece. But what is being done on your end to make sure that is contained as best as you can, obviously.
So thanks for the question, Chair, and through you to the commissioners. First and foremost, we're working very closely with public health. As you know, public health does the contact tracing, and they, based on their investigation, will decide who should be recontacted, who should go for testing, those kind of things. So we rely on them. We wait for their information. Internally, obviously, we're committed to regular cleaning, disinfecting of all of our buildings and vehicles and all those things on a regular basis. And then when these types of situations arrive, further, in some instances, deeper cleaning and those kind of things to make sure that we stay ahead of it. And obviously, we, throughout the pandemic, have been evaluating, how we respond, what does our deployment look like, building in contingency models to ensure that we can provide for business continuity on a regular basis. So, we're monitoring every day to make sure that we are delivering on our service needs. Obviously, while we're protecting our frontline members and ensuring that they can go home safe at the end of the day as best we can to their families. And, as I say, it goes on regularly to ensure that we can deliver what we need to do.
Thank you. And you mentioned it earlier, and I just want to be clear. So you said this from what you're understanding, and obviously share what you're allowed to share. You're understanding this is specifically related to a facility and not to community spread.
Yeah, so I'm no expert, so what I can tell you is I don't believe it has anything to do with community spread, but that's not my area of expertise. We, as cases became known to us, we worked very closely with public health. Chief Superintendent Gray and I are on the phone quite regularly, discussing, where members are potentially, moving between buildings and things like that. So far, I think we're in pretty good shape. But again, I would rely on public health to answer any of those questions beyond the information that I've given you.
Okay, no, that's great. I don't want to get too detailed because obviously this has to do with health and specific individuals. So appreciate that information, Chief. Both of you on your updates. Seeing there's nothing further, we'll move to 11, which is add items, which there are none. Items for future considerations, there are none. Commissioner McDougall.
I do have one item for future consideration. It's not urgent, but we have a new complaints commissioner with the province, and it would be good to hear from that person. I believe it's a retired judge, and Patrick Curran. And so I just want to add that to the list of potential presentations for future. Thank you.
Great. No, thank you. Also, I was gonna send an email, but maybe this is a good time to say too. Also, with the new Justice Minister of Justice, it might be good for us to send a little letter just on behalf of the commission on our priorities, and also welcoming the new minister as well. So, if you think that commission that's a good idea, we'll get a quick letter out. All right, see thumbs up. Just to say welcome and hey, this is what we do and hope to get your support. So obviously we'll send that off to the commission for a quick peek at before we send it out. All right, and so I'll ask if we can move the in-camera minutes now, if I can get a motion to move those, if that's fine. That moved by Commissioner Mcdougall, second by Commissioner Blackburn. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none. Great. And then we have information report, re-contract negotiations. I am wondering if any commissioners would like to go in camera to discuss that item. And if you would, just give me a hands up or say yes. Oh, Commissioner Kent, would you like to go on camera to discuss that?
Just give me a minute. Sorry, I think I jumped ahead on that. Just give me a second.
Yep, no worries. And if we are not going in camera, that would be, I'll give Commissioner Kent a moment. Are there any notices of motion that commissioners have? Nope, seeing none. Date of our next meeting is April 19th, 2021, and just waiting to see if anyone else would like to go on camera to ask any questions.
No, thank you. I'm good, Mr. Chair.
You good? All right. Oh, okay. Just a clarification for folks. The information report is actually the information report that Chief discussed previously around the IT audit. It's not contract negotiations, just for clarification. So in that case, since we determined earlier that we didn't have any in-camera questions, I will call for adjournment.
And so it is.
All right, so moved by Commissioner Blackburn. We are adjourned. Thank you everybody for your work today. Always a good time to spend with you. Happy International Women's Day. Remember, it's not just the one day. Let's celebrate every day. And I appreciate you all, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
All right.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much. Thank you.
Okay, bye.